Make sure everything is good, live, and direct. All right, good afternoon, people. Good afternoon. Great to see you. Great to be back on an incredible Sunday. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Aswan Crookshank. I'm your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current five-time, soon-to-be six-time published author and educator. And what I do, what I created, what the Move Swiftly brand is all about is taking the teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and aligning them with businesses so you have a staff, a group of employees that are as eager, as passionate, and as hungry as a championship level high school, youth, or football team, as we do every single Sunday over here. Stay Hired Sunday. My good friend Kimberly Blue, we are talking effective communication today. Trust me, something you're not going to want to miss. Kimberly, how you doing?
Good, Swan. Good. Happy to be back. And I am Kimberly Blue, Art and HR Solutions, and I help businesses make it better.
All right. So today's topic is something that I think as I look through everything that we've been doing this show every give or take. We've missed maybe 2 Wednesdays over the past 6 months. Excuse me, 2 Sundays over the past 6 months, and I've realized we have not done a show that's dedicated strictly on effective communication. And I'm saying effective communication because it's incredibly relative towards what your situation is. So if you're in a situation where you're a company that may not need a huge online presence, the effective communication is going to be in the meeting room and having actual meetings. If you're obviously a company that depends a lot on social media, you have to make sure you communicate effectively. And I want to frame today's discussion by telling you guys a story from yesterday, something that I personally lived through that really woke me up and really got me thinking about what I'm going to be discussing throughout the week. Is there's a gentleman, I'm a group leader at my church, Life. Shout out to Life Church. Shout out to all the folks listening, by the way, that are new. Great to have you guys yesterday morning. It was great chopping it up with you guys and telling you guys a little bit about what I'm doing. But so we were having this conversation. He comes to my Life Church group. I teach boxing every 2 weeks out here in West Palm Beach. And he was telling me, and I literally just saw him at the church, and he was, again, we grew a great deal in that frame of him meeting me and seeing that I go regularly. He was telling me how he moved from, I think it was Israel. He moved from another country all the way out here to Florida just 2 or 3 years ago. And he was telling me how he has used YouTube to learn English. He didn't know any English a couple years ago. And now him and his wife are established, yet given that he learned all the English and just picked up on these things. And I've been thinking about that all day. So it's been a whole 24 hours of me just considering putting myself in his shoes and saying, like, what if that were me? What if I was trying to escape a difficult situation, go to another country, and then have to learn that language and figure things out? And as always, I contact my good friend Kimberly and say, how does that connect with the HR world? How does that connect with building our businesses? How does that connect with the overall landscape of moving society forward? And that's where today's topic came from. So do you have any initial thoughts as we go forward before I keep talking? Because I could probably, I could start getting on a soapbox
Well,
and keep going.
effective communication could be good for everyone, not just, in that situation. If you think
Hmm.
about, some people just talk but don't listen.
Yes.
And they don't have anything to say. Like if you go into a meeting, a lot of times there'll be one person that dominates, right? And then
Hmm.
people will say something, they interrupt. So part of effective communication is listening to the feedback. So if you say, you're talking about a business decision, and then you ask for opinions, and then you interrupt, and you don't listen to understand,
Hmm.
you listen to the 10 with reply, you're never going to get that effective communication. So that's my first thoughts about it.
Let's stay there for a second because there have been several blow-ups between myself and several colleagues over the past, actually this past week. There were several blow-ups, several misunderstandings, several things that isn't new to me over here, especially if you guys been keeping up with my work. It's kind of common in the education world where teachers who have a certain philosophy and they need to build a relationship with students, there's always going to be clashes and clashes and clashes. But the issues came from the fact that certain things weren't communicated. And we are, again, we're in a situation where we're always trying to figure out the best way to educate kids. But when you look at it from the HR perspective, and you have gone from back in the day where you actually had to walk in in and give a job interview, you have to actually walk in and meet someone face to face. Nowadays, there is this sense that everything can work from a virtual. I think you were kind of freezing there for a second. There's this sense that everybody has got to adapt from a virtual standpoint. Do you? And I know we've kind of talked about updating the employee handbook in the past. We kind of talked a little bit about how to wait. I think you keep freezing. I think we lost you, Kimberly. There we go. Are you hearing me? You kind of fading in and out.
Oh yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
All right. Yeah,
Is it good
basically,
now?
I was. Well, you're kind of fading in and out. I'm not sure if
Oh,
it's your screen, but basically, what I was asking is, as you're thinking about effective communication, how much have you, like, what exactly would you explain to people who are running a business now that have gone from this concept of having people show up every day and give a job interview and people showing up to work every day and being able to have that face-to-face dialogue versus now where you have to develop some sort of a virtual way of establishing something that's effective so people understand what the expectation is, even if they're working from home or they're coming in the office. Where's the steps that you're taking them?
so think about the hybrid workers or even the
Mhm.
work at home. There has to be a cadence of communication.
Yeah.
So everyone it's gonna look different for everyone, but typically, having a one-on-one meeting or a group meeting at least once a week if you're virtual. And if they're
Mhm.
hybrid, have it in person because, make sure that number one, it's on video because a lot of times there's a lot of nonverbal cues, that you can take and from a conversation that if people aren't on camera, then you're not going to be able to see those verbal cues.
Mhm.
And so I would say make sure number one that you're in person if it's virtual that you're going to be on camera and at least once a week, minimum once a week. 2 weeks
Right.
is too long. So much happens in a week in the workplace that
Mhm.
if you wait any longer than that, there's going to be
Mhm.
something missed. And
Right.
then make sure at least once a month, if possible,
Mhm.
for this virtual to be either in person,
Mhm.
just to meet and see each other because you get to know people. It's different doing it just on the phone or just over a Zoom call.
Okay, so the question I have, and we got to take things back to the sports world. All right, we got to. This is what we do here. This is how it all connects over here in the Swiftly world. It always goes back to what you learn in the sports world in terms of how to create that uncomfort, how to create that situation where your behind can be replaced, how to create a scenario in which, yeah, you might be balling, you may be scoring touchdowns, but there's another young cat coming that wants that job. All right.
And
So I love to hear the idea because unfortunately what starts happening is folks get a job, they get a little money, they get the salary that they're happy with, they're just sort of getting by, and all of a sudden they're not as hungry. And when you're talking
right,
about a virtual way of doing things, like you just said, well, you're checking in here and there, but it's not like you have to deal with the boss. It's not like there's that pressure. What would you say is important in terms of making sure that the culture doesn't become, like a lot of coaches like to use the term, doesn't become like a country club atmosphere, but it becomes more of the, look, there's a job that needs to be done, and we don't want anybody walking around here like their just spot is guaranteed tomorrow, because it isn't.
right. So I would say, the onus is on whether you don't have to just be a leader,
Hmm.
yourself. The onus is on each individual person to make sure that everyone is updated. I'll tell you, one of the best things, especially if you're doing Zoom or Teams meetings, is they have AI note takers, and there's all different kinds.
Ah.
When you're having meetings, if you do not use that, you are missing out because it is much better than us taking notes and we could miss something. So that is a game changer because then it gets emailed to both parties. And so both parties knows exactly what the conversation was about. And
Hmm.
it gives you a follow-up list, a to-do list of things that you spoke about because it's a
Hmm.
really good recap. So I
Okay.
would say make sure that you do that and have good follow-up with it and then use Microsoft to-do lists. you can make that list that you got from the AI notes and put into a Microsoft list
Mm-hmm.
and share it so then both of you are seeing it. That
Mm-hmm.
opens up so many doors. Let's use the tools that we have, right? It opens up
Yes.
so many opportunities to be better. So
Yeah.
elevate yourself by using the tools that are available to us.
And to that note, I want to give you guys a quick testimonial from my perspective. Just a couple of weeks ago, I kind of referenced or touched on the situation I was dealing with in my workplace. And it was Kimberly Blue who actually advised me to make sure I document this stuff in my own notes, make sure I document this stuff in my own Google Notes. And ever since then, I might not have updated the doc since then, but I'm making sure I'm sending emails that are written communication in case I get into spats and in case I can say, look, I tried to reach out to this person. This person decided to bring this one in the conversation, but this one didn't have. Again, all of this stuff is important because the writing stuff down, the having a digital footprint, all of that stuff is something that you can control. You
Yeah.
guys as an individual. All right. Now, I know I talk a lot about teamwork. Again, the number one show on innovative teamwork. We do teamwork all day, every day here. But teamwork is also an individual thing. It's what you're willing to do for the team. And when you mention the AI, when you mention the notes, when you mention all the things that we've been seeing in our government, jobs are being taken. Like, I mean, listen, the guy, it's clear. We talked about last time we were on the show, is that we are now, I hear a lot of heavy Trump supporters say the adults are officially back in office. All right. Grown men are back in office, and he is not playing any games. This is his second term. He made a lot of mistakes before, and whether you like him or not, if you had your second opportunity to do anything in life, you're going to do it better than you did the first time, whether you like the person or not. So he knows what he's doing because it's his second opportunity. And what I'm bringing all this up is because the the concept of you just doing a job that you're not qualified to do at this point, you're going to get figured out and you will be replaced. And I'm bringing this up because I love for you to give people like speak to an individual who may be struggling in a particular position or an individual who has ambition but doesn't feel like they're being heard, doesn't feel like they're being able to figure out ways to leverage up or move up some corporate ladder. How do you speak to those folks? I know you had mentioned working with some people in George Mason and the college element, because if we really get those young people, Kimberly, if we get them seeing how much power they have, man, they taking over. Like my niece, actually, she's taking college credits. Like, she's a sophomore in high school. She's taking college credits already. So by the time
Yeah,
she can be a senior, she's already going to have her AA, like already have her associate's degree,
that's
already a
crazy.
lifeguard, all that stuff. Like I'm talking to my mom about this. I'm like, word? That little
Yeah.
baby that just came out a couple years ago is talking like that. I'm like, that's my niece, man. Anyway, I might get too outside. If I start talking about this, we're gonna go in another
They are
anyway.
so more
Long short,
advanced than we are. They,
right,
they are on it. They're so more advanced now. They're driven, which is excellent because not everybody is driven like that. But
right.
the same kind of tools can be used.
Mm-hmm,
Whether we have recorders on our phones.
mm-hmm,
And you can put. You can definitely say, "Hey, this is this." Sorry with the dogs there. Um, now
mm-hmm.
my phone has fallen. It's just a great show today, Aslan.
It's all about the content, so we're good. Mm-hmm,
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, you know, you could just record your notes, as you're walking. It doesn't have to be, the communication doesn't have to be always in person, like having to take down notes for every little thing. It's
mm-hmm.
just like when you're doing a shot, when you're running, you think about something and what do? You do a video.
Yes,
You could do that as well,
yes. Mm-hmm,
and so you could take all of those notes and
mm-hmm,
dump them into whatever chat GPT or whatever that you like to use and say, please use bullet points and tell me what the main concern is and provide three resolutions. You
mm-hmm,
do that, it'll have beautiful notes there for you, copy and paste into whatever you want, your Google Docs. And it keeps a running tab for you. And at the end of the month, end of the week, you could take all of the notes, put it in Chat GPT, and do the exact same thing.
yeah,
You
and
could
I
make a to-do list for me. What can I
yeah.
do to solve this problem?
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it so easy and organized for you to be able to go back to it later.
Right, and I've actually myself, you guys have seen me grow and do that in ways that now I'm using it I'm actually, this is my first time. I'm working on book number 6, and I'm using ChatGPT. This is my first book that I'm using ChatGPT to help me write, as they're going to be like my editor now. So all that
Hmm.
being said, we are here on 15 at the 15-minute mark. We usually like to get some questions in. So as I was talking, I prompted ChatGPT with the question of create 5 questions about effective communication for business owners who are in need of a better process. And here are the 5 questions that we are getting ready to tackle right now. Again, this is all raw, uncut. Kimberly doesn't know what's coming down the pipeline. I really haven't read through them like that either. It's just what ChatGPT spit out. So here's the first one. How do you currently ensure that all team members receive and understand key business updates, and what challenges have you encountered in this approach? Let me get that one first. So right now, the way, and I hate to say we, but I guess I gotta take blame or take some sort of credit for, or blame most of the blame for it. But as a school, because we're a startup school, a lot of this stuff is received through email, which when you're talking to a group of creative educators and people who have a creative mindset, it needs to be more of a face-to-face dialogue when it comes to how we communicate, whether you're talking about creators or entrepreneurs. A lot of it needs to be understood face-to-face, so you know directly and be very direct. And the second part of the question is, what challenges have you encountered? I sort of stepped on that point, is that you got to mold every element of communication to the type of person that you're looking to hire. So if you have an engineering firm and you're hiring engineers, okay, that's actual documentation. This needs to equal that. That dynamic, that measurement needs to equal that measurement. That needs to be written down. But if you have, let's say, a insurance agency where you're hiring entrepreneurs and they need to be selling, you need to be more so in the face-to-face dialogue with people. Hey, what if you get a call about a glass breaking here and you're on vacation, but you got to make that call? It needs to be more of a face-to-face deal based on the personnel that you're looking to hire. So that would be the way I answer that. So I'll let you go.
So, when you think about a group of people with diverse thought
Hmm.
and different ways of understanding, if you have a framework of how you communicate and it is direct and clear what you're trying to say, then anyone will be able to understand. Something I implemented this past week with the team that I work with, it's called Microsoft Loop.
Microsoft Loop.
Loop,
Okay.
LOOP. And think about, and it's not really a newsletter type, but it has, many different templates you can use. You can set up any way that you want to.
Hmm.
This one is just a communication. So it actually gives you a template. This is what's going on right now. This is what needs to be done. And it's all about communication, but it's laid out so easily that anybody could understand it. And if there's any expansion needed for any of the bullet points, then there's a place to put notes. You can assign people tasks. So, okay, Kimberly, you need to write this document. Then you just type in the name and email. Your name comes up and it sends you an email that you have this task to do. So it's also not just a communication tool, it's also an accountability tool.
No.
And so
Yeah,
it
yeah,
works
keep going.
really
Yeah, I'm
well.
learning. I'm getting with the times, man. Come on now, come on now. Microsoft Loop, folks. Here we go.
Yep. It is a really, really good tool that I
And you
love to
can
use.
schedule the demo. All right, cool.
Yeah, we could do, look, I could show you how to use it. Maybe we could do it
Hmm.
on here. It's great. I love it. And you can use
All
it on
right.
your phone, you can use it on your
Hmm.
tablet, you can use it on your computer. It's intuitive, it's easy. Like I said, you assign tasks, you can they're so robust that you can pretty much do it any way you want. And then the other people that are using it also can leave notes and assign tasks. So it's easily, and it integrates with Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, that would actually be really good for because the school I teach at, we have the Microsoft, the Outlook Microsoft one, so that would actually work well. Of course, they have to actually listen to what I say, but it's another
They
conversation for
have to
another
read
day.
it. So part of it is that you check off that you read it.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
you're right. You check off, so you actually can
right,
see it.
right.
and
So you
that's
can
and that's
see.
what I mean with a lot of everything needs to be molded however you present stuff. And this is where I'm big on presentation. However you present stuff, it's so important. And this is why again the topic is what it is. this is a great program, but if it's presented poorly to the wrong person, it could be turned off because it's like, oh, that just sounds like some AI technology stuff. If it's not presented in a fashion that someone would say, oh, okay, that makes sense. That actually is something that makes sense. So that was question number one. Question number two: what methods do you use to gather feedback from employees and customers, and how do you ensure that feedback is acted on effectively? This one's a little dicey because we live in this social media era, and unfortunately, that the feedback that we are hearing, it's about how many views you're getting, how many comments and likes, and a bunch of vanity metrics, and that's unfortunately what's dictating what people are selling because they're looking for the quick profit. But what we do here is we want you to stay hired over the period of time, and I believe that feedback, you can only really get something out of feedback when it's measured over a period of time. When you've been able to understand that certain folks have certain patterns, and that's just the way their worldview is, and they're just simply not going to change. So, when it comes to this one, I think it really has to be about, are you in it for the long haul, business owners? Are you going to see this thing through and through? Because you're going to make some mistakes in terms of who you hire. You're going to make some mistakes in terms of what campaign or what you focus on. And the question has to be, is your heart into it enough to where you can take those hits and keep on ticking? So that's kind of the way I look at that.
Nothing gets fixed if people die. It's not all going to be good. Number one, you can't please everybody. So, you have to take that and I look at feedback as a gift because
Mm-hmm.
how can I get better if I don't know what's wrong? Right.
Yeah.
So, from a personal standpoint, and if you're a professional that wants to grow, you send an email to 10 people, just 10 people, not the ones that are going to just fluff you and make you feel warm and fuzzy. You're going to send them to
Mm-hmm.
people that even you have conflict with sometimes. And you're going to ask them two questions. What do I do well? And the second question is, what could I improve on? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And say that you are, the beginning of the email should just state, I'm looking to improve professionally and personally. Would you take, 5 minutes and answer these two questions? And please be honest, because I want to get better at whatever it is that we're trying to get better at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Then leave it up to them.
Mm-hmm.
Let them fill it out, and then you take action on what they say. You don't
I,
have to agree with all the feedback, right?
yeah.
But you
Mm-hmm.
can take action. And for the business owner, you can use Microsoft Forms, you can use Google Forms,
Mm-hmm.
and put in the metrics that you want to track. Make sure it's anonymous because a lot of people do not want to give feedback unless
Right.
it's anonymous, and have them fill it out. You send them a link and ask them to fill it out.
Yeah.
And it has to be
I've heard
anonymous. A
that.
lot of
I've
people
heard
don't
that
want to say
experiment.
things.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh?
I've heard that experiment before, and it really is effective. I think with the college kid that's looking for a job, and if they're willing to go with a family member that they know are going to tell them the truth. It's the thing is, as I've grown up, I know it's hard to do it with current employees and current colleagues because so many of them are in it just to keep their damn jobs. And they don't really care what goes on. They're happy with it. They're happy with whatever check they're getting every 2 weeks. But them actually doing something for somebody other than themselves, they've lost that. They've lost that drive to do it. So I would recommend doing it, at least trying. But definitely, any young college graduates, people getting ready to graduate, definitely do that with some family members or some college friends that you may have been grown close to in your past 4 years. So.
Remember the 80-20 rule. 20% are not going to care, but you'll
Yes,
get good feedback from the 80%. So it's your
exactly. And that's what you're gonna run. That's an indication of who the hell you should be having in your inner circle as it is. So
Yeah.
are your internal external communication channels, email, meetings, messaging apps aligned with the speed and clarity and need for your all right, so we pretty much already answered this one. Whatever it is you do decide to do, mold it to your personnel and mold it to your ideal customer and ideal staff or employee member. I'll let you, if you want to address it, just go ahead and I'll put number 4 up, which is a big one. I just kind of skimmed it, but I'll read it live here. How do you handle miscommunication or misunderstandings in your business, and what strategies have been effective in resolving them? Me, myself, I have not seen it better. And I've had a ton of jobs, folks. I have worked in a ton of different industries. I have not seen this handled better than in a locker room of football players. It has not been handled better. I'll never forget, man. We had a situation where there was kind of a dust up on the field. And after we got in the locker room, we had no fists were thrown, no like putting your hands on each other, but it was a straight up shouting match about what happened, this happened, and it all got out. And the next day, everyone was good. We went to lunch and everything was good. So I am a firm believer of just shooting people straight. Look, you're playing some bullshit. You're doing some bullshit right now. You need to step your game up and go at it. I feel like every business owner needs to be taken on that culture. I get everyone's not really built for that, but for me, I go right back to the locker room. I need like this. I like this question. You can see I'm excited.
Some
I'm ready to
people,
stretch it
though,
up.
some people do not like time. They
Yeah.
feel that some people feel as though straight shooting conversations
Right.
are confrontational.
Right.
And it doesn't need to be that, but I agree with you. How do you handle it? You tackle it head on. Hey, I screwed up, or you screwed up, I screwed up, whoever screwed up. This is my idea to fix it. What's your idea?
Hmm.
That's the best way, because if you don't, what happens is that everybody keeps it in here and everybody gets mad and then you eventually don't care. And then you either quit your job, find a job, quit your business, whatever it is.
Hmm.
So handle it and do it fast. Do everything
Yeah.
quickly and with purpose.
Exactly. And as I've grown, I've seen so many businesses fail because of those little things that you're discussing, and it would be
Yes.
crazy to me because the instinct of the owner is to just try to put a band-aid on something. Like they'll
Not
be
gonna
very
work.
aware. Yeah, they'll be very aware of it. And the natural instinct is, okay, how do I just solve that one problem as opposed to getting to the core of it, getting to the system of it, and really digging out what's behind the problem happening in the first place. And let's really, tighten up the thing that's leaking. And so many, I mean, again, that's why Robert Kiyosaki said it in Rich Dad Poor Dad, 95% of the businesses out there fail. The other five are going to fail within the five. I think, 95% fail within the first year, something like that, and another four fail within 2 or 3 years, or something like that, where it's, look, only 1% is going to actually hit that home run and make something actually happen. So, final question, you've already kind of answered this, but I'll kind of give you the last word to repeat any systems and anything that you went to prove. You already mentioned Loop, but the question is, what systems or tools could you implement to improve consistency and efficiency in communication while reducing information overload for your team? So you already mentioned Loop, and maybe now it's a good time to kind of put more of what you do out there for clients
Mhm.
and stuff like that.
So, I think I said every podcast now is that you have to
Hmm.
set up a good framework.
Nothing wrong
And
with repeating
communication,
that.
yep, and communication is no different. So whatever the tools you are going to use, I mean, there's plenty out there. I've mentioned Microsoft a few times. That's what I use the most. But I also use, depending on my customer, Google Docs. So
Mm,
you have to be fluid, you have to be adaptable to be able to use, multiple communication platforms depending on who your customer is. But internally, you have to set it up, and then that's the process, procedure, process, and discipline. That's what it's about. So once you set it up, then you hold the team accountable to that communication, no matter what it is. If it's Teams, if it's Slack, then you make sure that it gets done and it's used consistently. Because once you don't use it and you eh, start doing something else, then guess
yeah.
what? Your whole system breaks down. So set
Right.
up the framework, make sure that you're consistent with it, make sure you do it, and make sure that everyone is following along. It's all about their buy-in. So pick
Yeah.
something that works for you and then keep it going.
Right. And to the last part of the question there, where it says to avoid information overload,
Oh,
that's an important
yes.
piece of it as well. When you're trying to gauge or engage people, I'll give you just a quick example as we close out. The church that I've been referring to, they just put something. So how it works is they put an event. It's a men's only event, like fellowshipping in April. So they put the big thing on the QR code on the big screen, and all it took was for me to take my phone out, put my information in, just fill out some quick information, and boom, they have it. And I noticed it was thumbstack. and every time I do something, it's all Thumbstack. So that's again 45 locations. They use one system. The people willing to go, they're not going to get a bunch of emails. They're not going to get a bunch of things following up. It's just that, boom, and it's done. So
Yep.
avoiding that information overload is huge when it comes to just getting people to show up. So all that being
Absolutely.
said, uh, this was awesome. It is so great to be back. I know we had some technical issues, and you see, this is why we do what we do, folks. Okay, we put our money where our mouth is. We actually do it. It's not no fake fluff stuff. It's the actual real dialogue, authentic dialogue, which is something that we are all starving for. We've starving for ever since the invention of the internet. So, all that being said, main website to check out to dive deeper into everything I'm doing. It is makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamope.com. One stop shop for your teamwork and self development needs. And Kimberly, as always, you get the last word.
Thank you, Son. Nice to be here as usual. You can visit me at ardenthrsolutions.com if you need help with your framework and communication setup. And we will see you next week on State Hired Sunday.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Talk more soon, guys.